Cam, what's going on tonight?
Man, not a whole lot. Good to be here. Glad to, talk about some Canes. And yeah, man, called it. Told you so. Well, I mean, not really. Okay, let me not go too far. I
You
did
said you
mention
wanted him.
right. I said I wanted him. I didn't mention Tyler Barron, and then saying that would be a big get because pretty much everybody in America wanted him. Uh, was at Louisville, and I'm using air quotations if you're just listening to the audio only version of this show, because I mean he was there and transferred, but like he never played there. Like he didn't even really participate in the spring. Um, so he applied his trade previously at Tennessee, 6'5", kind of 260 DN. So adding to the cadre of edge rushers and defensive linemen, that we have at Miami for this season. So yeah, he committed the other day, and like that's just a huge get. And yeah, just you gotta love what you see. I played 4 years at Tennessee. Remember, you get the COVID year, but 27 tackles for loss and 13 and a half sacks, 10 and a half tackles for loss and 6 sacks last season. 2 PBUs, a fumble recovery, which he took back 24 yards for a touchdown. I believe that was the trifecta, the sack, the forced fumble. No, he didn't force it. Sorry, somebody else did. But the recovery and touchdown. But yeah, that's a player that adding into the group at defensive end and edge rusher is just another great weapon for this Miami defense, and continues to show what we've been talking about, that Miami is all in on this season, like doing everything that we can to get all of the talent possible onto this roster. But as you look at the game by game, it just went away. It was just right there.
I apologize. I was just curious who he did the scoop and score against. I was just curious whether that was a good team. It was against UConn.
So not a good team. Okay, cool. Although, yeah, but I mean, hey, they have scholarships too. But yeah, this is a guy who, everybody in America wanted, and Miami ended up getting. So, shout out to Hall of Fame defensive end Jason Taylor, continuing just to add weaponry to his edge rusher room and everything. And yeah, this is a guy who, has, again, 6'5", 260. So he's a guy who can twist inside. You might play him inside a little bit if you go with like an all defensive end NASCAR package on a play, because he has the size to be. Now, I'm not saying that to move him inside to defensive tackle full time. I'm not saying, hey, have him approximate Vince Wilfork and put him at zero tech. I am not saying that. But yeah, he's a very talented guy, versatile guy, and very, very excited to have him on the team. And also shout out to Gabby Arrudia, spotted him out of the vast number of applicants we had to State of the U years ago. He was with us, and then, just transitioned on to 247 and does great work over there, and did what a dream spring transfer portal class would look like for Miami. And Miami got every one of those players, including Tyler Barron. It was Jalen Alderman. It was Diani Hill. It was Damian Martinez, Cam Ward, Tyler Barron, somebody else also. The kid from Michigan State that we got. Like literally every single one of the guys that we signed was Gabby's mock perfect dream class from the spring portal window. So shout out to him for being dialed in. And I mean, hey, I feel glad that, I had a little impact in his career, but also, man, on the flip side, there were people who were, talking mad noise at Gabby. Oh yeah, you're a fanboy. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, they're definitely not going to spend that money. They're definitely not going to recruit like that. Like, where are you coming up with all of these names? And then Mario Cristobal and company went out and got each and every one of those dudes. Again, for the umpteenth time, Miami is putting their money where their mouth is, chips to the center of the table, put it all on black. This is an all-in season. And if you did not believe that before, hopefully now you're seeing the actual construction of this roster to push for, the most wins possible. If you want to call it obviously, like I said, we don't have division championships anymore, but an appearance in the ACC championship game, potentially the first ACC championship since Miami's been in this conference. Yeah, I know that, pushing towards college football playoff and all those kind of things. These moves and beating all of the big boys, like other blue blood top tier programs for all of these dudes. This is what you do. And also, I just also want to put it back out there because I know that there's probably fans from other teams who are like, oh, well, Miami's going to transfer portal. I mentioned this and used this exact analogy a couple weeks ago. And then, of course, I've seen it proliferate across social media. I'm not saying that I have only original thoughts, but I'm telling you, y'all need to listen to me. High school recruiting is the NFL draft, and the transfer portal is free agency. The majority of your roster must be built from high school recruiting, and internal development. That is what it needs to be. But you're going to miss on some of those guys, and you're going to have some gaps, and you go plug those holes with free agency, i.e. transfer portal. And I've seen so many people, 247 on 3, ESPN, Rivals, who have used that analogy and everything. And so again, I'm just saying, number one, I'm right. So you should continue to listen to me. And like, that is the prevailing thought. If you do not have a program that is based and built foundationally, like way more by high school recruiting, you're going to run into issues, which leads me to what Florida State is doing, because they're inverting that ratio a little bit. And that's the foundation for why I'm saying they're playing too many away games. They're not doing what they need to do in the world of recruiting. And Bud Elliott is a Florida State alum. He used to be the beat writer and run Tomahawk Nation and everything on the Cover 3 podcast on CBS Sports and 247. And he has said as much about Mike Norvell's recruiting not meeting muster. So if you don't want to believe me, believe Bud Elliott, who is one of the most known Florida State people around. And he's on that show with Danny Cannell, who played there. And Danny Cannell says the same thing. So again, if you want to think I'm hating, cool. But when other people keep saying the same things, guys, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Listen to what I'm saying and know what I'm talking about.
Does this close the book on Florida State's transfer portal pursuits?
I don't know about them, but for Miami,
sorry,
I get it. But again, Miami beat Florida State head up for several guys this cycle, so yikes a beat of them, including and especially Cam Ward. And they're trying to say that they didn't want Cam Ward. You lie. I would think so, unless there's someone in the portal that is first team All-American, hiding in plain sight, that entered in there and it was not widely disseminated at the time, and they went in there with a do not contact tag because they knew they were going to come to Miami or something. Other than someone like that existing in the transfer portal, which I do not believe to be the case, I think that this would end Miami's transfer portal run this year, leaving room to fully admit that I'm not 100% dialed into the portal, so I could be very, very wrong on that. But I mean, when you go after a Damian Martinez, 2-time All Pac-12 performer, right? That's a known name. That's a guy. Tyler Barron, that's a known name. That's a guy, right? Cam Ward, that's a known name. That's a guy. I don't know that there's another guy of that caliber from either portal window that exists. If he's out there and I'll look through, maybe we go after him. Maybe we try to, make the numbers work or but otherwise, maybe we, unless it's some fantastical scenario, I really don't see it happening. It'll be, so I don't see it happening, period. End of that. Unless, and this is not really allowed because this loophole was closed, unless you find something like a Santana Moss, who went to Miami on a track scholarship, remember. So he did not count against scholarship numbers at a time when Miami had sanctions and whatnot. And you kind of have them play, and eventually, when they play in a football game, they do have to transition to that scholarship or something. Maybe you have that happen, but the only thing that I've seen like that is Cormani McClain being a walk-on at Florida. But again, this is a guy who that they're going to have to close that loophole. If Cormani McClain starts week 1 against Miami, you're like, oh, this is a walk-on. Yeah, cool, right. Anyway, file his scholarship paper with the NCAA. You know what I mean? So unless there's something like that in the works, I don't necessarily see us going and getting anybody else.
you're a recruiting guy at heart. And now that we've seen this transfer portal process year after year, cycle after cycle, and Mario Cristobal is known for his recruiting prowess at the high school level, we see him bring in a class like this. What are the differences between the two? And what are the similarities, which I think are more obvious, but the process of being a grade A recruiter and at both the high school level and of college players?
Yeah, I mean, number one, you have to be like just like doggedly psychotic to recruit high school. Like you have to be consistent with it, the communication and everything. And Mario Cristobal is known to be that, from when he was an assistant and as a head coach. Like he, if you talk to any player and like you've talked to Mario and we've heard from him, I am the one who sends the text messages. There is not an automated system. So if you're getting a text message from my number, it's coming from me. Right. So he's on record as saying that many moons ago. Right. You talk to recruits all the time. Yeah, man, I'm talking to coach at, he sent me something before school. It's 5 a.m. I got done with a game that went into triple overtime. I didn't get, off the field till 12:35, after midnight and everything. Bang, coaches, hitting me up. Hey, great job, bro. They're like, what? Like, just all the time. So like, you have to, the communication needs to be voluminous, like, not for just kids, but especially kids. Like shiny objects will catch your attention. Like, yeah, I really like Miami. Oh, they're like, oh, I saw Oregon with their new jerseys. Well, I'm really focused on them. That quickly, gone from your brain, right? So the communication needs to be there. Building those relationships. And, this is the thing that we've talked about. You're going to those schools year after year. Like, we saw coaches from Miami at Miramar High School Miramar High School when I worked there all the damn time. You know what I mean? To the point, oh, hey, what's going on? Coaches from other places all the time. If you go to IMG Academy, you're not just going there one time for one player. You're there all the time. You don't just go to Lakeland for Cormani McLean. You're there the year before, the year after. Those kind of things, building those relationships is really, really key. And on that, I've talked about Deion Sanders and some of his failings. Like he's famous, because of his playing career and everything, right? But like, having built a relationship with the staff where he can go somewhere and be like, cool, Coach Mark, you got the kid this year. And tell me about the next couple of kids. Like, who else do you got? Because the kid this year might not be, to the caliber of whatever. But you have, at Palmetto High School, I could not name you a single player on their team the year before they had 5 or 6 of the best recruits in America. With Jason Marshall, 56 Lawrence Taylor was there. There was a kid, Savion Collins, who was like an early 5-star, but he peaked as like a freshman or sophomore in high school. Brashard Smith was on that team, Corey Collier. You know what I mean? Like the Palmetto 5, like we wrote articles about it, like all kinds of stuff. The year before, couldn't tell you really anybody on that squad, but you know what we did? Went there and recruited. South Dade, nobody really on that team, right? But then you have Frank Ladson and you have Tyreek Stevenson, 2 All-Americans. So you keep going. So building those relationships is really key. In terms of so those are some of the things that make you a good high school recruiter, right? In terms of the transfer portal, number one, you have to like be really upfront with guys because they're moving through their career, have an opportunity for them to play and be backed by collectives that are going to spend the money necessary to get guys there. I'm not saying that everybody makes millions because they don't. But being and really connecting with the player. Give me one second. Sorry, I'm sitting here drinking a sparkling water and it was coming back up. Anyways, but yeah, like really just you have to be really honest with them about where they would fit, how you use them, not like down the line, but like right now. Now, for the most part, if you are Oregon and you spin the block on Dante Moore, right? You can just say, in that situation, hey, look, we finished second, maybe third, but probably second to UCLA when you signed out of high school. We're the same guys. We have the same plan and everything. We're going to bring in this older guy who's a good college player, but like he's going to go pro in something other than sports. And Dylan Gabriel, like he's not going to have a great NFL career. He's just not that physically gifted, right?
He's going to make
but
a paycheck, right?
He's going to make a paycheck. I mean, he's a guy who could be practice squad. So, I mean, I think he can go like maybe Kellen Moore plus, you know, kick around for a couple of years, go into coaching, but he's just not that physically gifted. But at the college level, just like Kellen Moore, he can ball, right? And he's a guy that you can learn from and grow with on this roster for 1 year. We're going to thank Dylan Gabriel for his time in Eugene and give him his 25-year silver watch or whatever for his time in college football, and then transition and give you the keys to the kingdom, which is what we said we were going to do when you were a recruit from Detroit Martin Luther King High School, nay, only 10 months ago. So if you have that kind of connection with somebody in the portal, you can leverage those kind of things. Otherwise, pretty much, what are we going to do for you and with you right now? How are we going to position you best to move forward with your career? And for most guys, that's, playing heavy rotation snaps and moving towards the NFL. There are some depth guys, and, if you are a guy who knows that they're a big fish in a little pond, Marley Cook at Middle Tennessee, the defensive tackle is coming up here. Probably not going to start, but he's like, hey, I could start and play 600 snaps at Middle Tennessee, or I could be a rotation guy playing 350 to 400 in Miami and take my chances because we got all these other guys coming in, being real and really upfront with it. But also like, hey, you and I have both talked about it on this show. The compensation model of NIL is a real thing, and leveraging that and being upfront with that also has to be a component, in the pursuit of guys in the portal and having the backing. Because, like, again, we got a couple of guys last year, but like the breadth and depth of that recruiting class from the portal last year, even though we got a few good number of guys, not like this, especially because you got a quarterback coming in. So, it's a couple of, some of the same themes, as it were, but those are kind of some of the things that I look at to be a good recruiter on both levels.
Cam, how extensive do you think the scouting is of these transfer players? So Cam Ward's Cam Ward. So just about anyone would want him. At the same time, you would think because it's the position that leads your team, you would do the due diligence of watching film and understanding, is he all that he's supposed to be? And does he fit what we do? And, what are we getting here? Or is he overrated? Blah, blah, blah. All the way down to the player you just mentioned. What kind of game tape can we get on him? How extensive do you think that is? Or is it just Tyler Barron at 10 TFLs at Tennessee, so it doesn't take a brain surgeon to think, if he can rack that up in the SEC and do it for 4 years, then he's good enough to play here. Sign him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think these grad assistants and analysts make their money there, looking at the landscape, grinding all of that film and everything to understand what guys do, what they do well, and where their skills will translate to what is being asked of them schematically at Miami. There's definitely, look, digital film, you can get the all 11, you can focus on anybody. Same thing that they have with, with the NFL Network and the NFL Draft, and like everywhere they have the preponderance of that. And then, you just, hey, you're a grad assistant. This is the grind. Like, you're a defensive analyst or whatever. We need you watching this, and then, taking some notes, but then kicking it to the position coach and the coordinators, and they're going to go through there and that. But yeah, there has to be a lot of film, because you're not just going to get guys on name alone, even Tyler Barron, even a Cam Ward, right? Because what was the kid from K-State, quarterback?
Will Howard.
Brought him in. That's another quarterback with, starting experience and had slayed some dragons and won some big games, right? But does he really fit? Is that the quarterback that we're going to try to build all of this around? Yeah, I don't know. You watch that Cam Ward film? Yeah, we're bringing them both in. This guy, and if we get him, now we're going to really push in to build everything. Because I think that you would have seen some of what we've done in the portal had we gotten like a Will Howard. It wouldn't have been the exact same. It just wouldn't, But yeah, you got to go over all that film and everything. And again, Mario Cristobal is known to be just incredibly detail oriented with his talent acquisition process in terms of hiring coaches. Like, I mean, the multiple interviews and presentations people got to go through, quizzing them on the board, asking them all kinds of stuff, connecting, talking, hanging out. The same thing when he's evaluating film for high schoolers and everything. Doing the same kind of process when it goes to transfer portal guys just fits with the ethos. I would be very shocked if he's just, what most of us are doing. I mean, and like I watch, you watch more college football than I do, but I watch more than like pretty much everybody else who's in, this chat and everything. But like, I will still go look up clips and I will go do some things. But for the most part, it's like, oh, Tyler Barron had 10.5 tackles tackles for loss at Tennessee. Now let me seek out the film and kind of going that way. Internal to Miami, I'm sure it has to be the inverse. We're going to grind film and see who pops and know the names and like figure that out that way. But like, yeah, I think it just is the inverse where we might shop from like the name list and then look towards, how they fit and everything, where internal to the Hecht Athletic Center, they kind of do things a little bit differently, but also knowing, hey, this guy is a superstar. He's a known name. Let's be sure that we kick the tires and we do our due diligence and grind that film to see if he's somebody who could fit here.
Falconer TRX, we appreciate you leading us off as always. Falconer checked in at the Florida State show. Falconer, if I did not bypass your super chats in the previous show. However, we had to rush them in at the last second. So hopefully you took no offense to that. We appreciate you. You know that. All right. Coming back with this one. Word on the street, the turf at Doak is suspect.
It is suspect, but Miami has a winning record up there, so hey.
Falconer coming back with this one. Love the screen with the team logo. Nice upgrade. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I noticed that when I signed on to broadcast today. I say, okay, Mark is up in the production value over there.
We're doing our best.
I love it.
You need to kill the glare right there, but we'll work on the little tweaks. That's the light overhead there. All right. But thanks for noticing, Falconer. Legendary Scratch Builds. Hello, guys. I finally am watching the live. Love the show. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. And appreciate that.
Good to know. And it is something that I think about often and recognize that there are people out there that watch on a regular basis. They just don't have the opportunity to watch live, but they are just as supportive. Hit the like button and support and watch and enjoy the show. They just can't be here live. So we know that there's tons of you out there, actually more, that watch the record than watch us live. So thank you for being here in any way, shape, or form that you can. We enjoyed the live conversation, of course, first and foremost, but you have not been forgotten if you're watching us on the record a little bit later. And always keep in mind that if you join the chat a little bit late, that you got to go back and catch what you missed, because typically it's front loaded with the most important headlines at the start.
Ooh, throw up Machine Fitness's last comment. It should be the last one, the next to last one in there, right before George's. So this is talking about like what Mario has done in terms of roster building. And I'll read it, so for everybody listening, on audio only, Machine Fitness's comment says, "It sounds good, Cam, but Mario has missed on a lot of transfers in particular." True, he has. And I think other teams have as well. And I mean, I don't know which way you mean this, but it is a great double entendre kind of, because it hits on two levels. Number one, Miami has missed on guys, as in they have elected to go elsewhere as transfers. Especially at the wide receiver position before Sam Brown this year. Like, I can't name the last receiver that we've gotten of constant. Well, Charleston Rambo, excuse me. Sorry. And KJ Osborne. Okay, so we've gotten some guys, but we've missed on a list that's way longer at wide receiver than, those who have come here, even though those guys that I mentioned had success. Secondarily, the other meaning to that is we have obtained transfers and they have not performed well, as in missed on the ones in terms of performance and development that did elect to go to Miami for their second stop. And it's funny, I was thinking about that the other day because I saw this guy just signed or got signed to another NFL team. I believe it's his fifth. And he was a guy who transferred to Miami who I thought was going to really light the world on fire. And he was underwhelming to say the least, but continues to get signed in the NFL. I don't know if you remember the name D. Delaney.
Oh, yeah.
Cornerback at the military school in South Carolina. Furman?
I'll have to look that up. I don't remember him from college as much as I do from kicking around the NFL.
But right, he was a guy like, he transferred in, thought he was going to be quarterback, like a CB1, was not. But went to the league. He played in Tampa for a while. I saw that as he got signed, he's transitioning from corner to safety in the league. But that's a guy who missed on what he could have been and was billed to be, but is still in the NFL, by the way. But then you also have guys like Tommy Kennedy, who was a first-team All-American at the FCS level at Butler. He came in, figured he was going to potentially challenge for the left tackle slot, and he didn't play a single meaningful snap at Miami in the year that he was here. So, yeah, to your point, there have been misses as in guys who elected to go elsewhere, and then misses from those who chose to come to Miami as portal transfers and then fizzled out. But, I mean, Frank Ladson, a huge fizzle out. He's going to where? UMass this year? Please, whatever. But then you have Tyreek Stevenson, right? Second team, first team All ACC, second round draft pick, and was probably the third best rookie corner in the league this year. He was not first team All Rookie, as we found out the other, because it was, the Woolen kid from Seattle and Sauce Gardner were the first team All Rookie corners. But Tyreek Stevenson was the next best corner behind those two, right? That's a guy who transferred in. De'Aaron King did great stuff. And then, he got hurt. I mean, it was a little different, and he's going into coaching now. So yeah, there have been misses, not to belabor, or to elide by that. It's really great machine fitness that you brought that up, but you have to continue bringing in guys you think are going to fit, who you think can plug some of the holes on your roster because the guys that you recruited from high school maybe didn't pan out. And you cannot let, it cannot be once bitten, twice shy. The way that I'll wrap that up, in a couple of years, I forget what year it was, but the Detroit Lions, my team, drafted Charles Rogers out of Michigan State, number 2 overall wide receiver. He went from Saginaw to Michigan State so he was similar. It was a while ago. Yeah, something like that. And similar to Aiden Hutchinson, whose dad played at Michigan. He went to Dearborn Divide and Child, played at Michigan, and plays now for the Lions. It was a very from Southeast Michigan, my whole entire life and career thing. He broke his collarbone, Charles Rogers did, twice in a row in 2 seasons, right? And then it was millimeters down his collarbone, the second break from the first. But recovering from both of those, got addicted to opioids because he was going through pain, and then there were some issues and things like that. And then, his career didn't pan out. He's a guy who ran sub 4.3. You know what I mean? You figure he was the big play guy at Michigan State wearing the number 1 jersey for them. You're like, hey, this is going to work, but it didn't end up working out. And then a couple of years later, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he got 5 games as a rookie in 03, broke his collarbone, came back for 1 game in 04, broke his collarbone, and then played, I think it was 03 and 04 when he broke, and then he got injured again in 05. But a couple years later, the Lions were drafting very highly again, and there was a wide receiver named Calvin Johnson from Georgia Tech who wore number 21 and had a quarterback for his career in Reggie Ball who completed fewer than 50% of his passes. And that was a position when it could have been once bitten, twice shy, and saying, okay, the Charles Rogers thing didn't work out, so we're not going to draft Calvin Megatron Johnson, first ballot Hall of Famer, after only a 9-year career, right? Similarly, so I just say you cannot let a previous result completely impact and derail your thought and decision-making process moving forward. So I say that to say that Machine Fitness, you are correct. Mario has missed on some guys in the from the transfers. Either if they went elsewhere or they came here and they did not pan out. But the failings of those other guys is not going to keep me from bringing in a Cam Ward, from bringing in a Sam Brown, from bringing in a Damian Martinez, right? You still have to do what you have to do to get the talent on the team, and hopefully you're able to make it work. And if you're not, then next year we're going to get, a new shiny toy, whether that's from the high school recruiting ranks or from the portal, to, build the team in the way possible. But you are correct. There have been misses. So I understand your skepticism to say that everybody that was brought in is going to play to the level that we expect, and the team is going to coalesce and perform at a very high level. I completely understand. And that was a great point you made.
Before it was Calvin Johnson, another wide receiver came to mind by way of USC to the Detroit Lions that helped make Matt Millen famous. Of course, he already was, but famous for whiffing on first-round wide receivers, and that's Mike Williams.
Yeah.
And then, oddly, he toiled and got hurt and all that business, and then, boom, he pops up with 65 catches, and then a year later, he's done. He's out of the league.
Yeah, really crazy. True story.